Good day, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Truck Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hannaberry. So let me start off by asking you a question. At any point in your day-to-day life, do you ever feel a physical discomfort? I'm not talking about an injury. I'm talking about a discomfort. Maybe something in your legs, maybe a sore knee, a sore hip, maybe a sore neck. And do you ever realize that that soreness leads to other stuff that's maybe not desirable? So for myself, for example, I'll get a sore neck, which leads to a headache. Not desirable. And I remember when I was still operating as a professional driver, I used to fight a sore left knee and a sore left hip. And I honestly think it was just because I was stabilizing myself as I was operating a truck with an air ride seat. So in today's episode, I'm excited to introduce you to someone that I really respect, who happens to be my chiropractor, Dr. Barry. So in today's episode, Dr. Barry and I are going to dive into, sure, some of the physical pain, but also some of the mental stress that comes from physical pain and some really applicable advice that we can start doing collectively together just to start feeling better. One thing that I admire most about Dr. Barry is his ability to hear people's pain without feeling like a lab rat. And I think that's super important because I've been going to the clinic now for a handful of months, and you feel welcome when you walk in the door. You feel like you're an actual person that just, hey, I'm here. I don't feel the best. Help me out. And they're able to, as a team, like their entire team's awesome, but they're able to hear, okay, I hear what you're going through. And it's not just, this is your problem, this is a solution, but they treat you as a person. I really respect that. In today's episode, I really believe that it's going to be really powerful for those that are wondering, man, I'm always in pain. What can I do? Chiropractic care is definitely an opportunity, but also a lot of the advice Dr. Barry shares is really applicable that you can honestly do in your day-to-day. Part of it is standing, part of it is movement, part of it is lifestyle. And I'm just really excited to see where this conversation goes. Well, let's get to it. Hey, good day, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Truck Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hannaberry. Super excited for today as I have someone I really respect who's having an impact on my life weekly, Dr. Barry, who happens to be my chiropractor. So welcome, Dr. Barry.
Hey, thanks so much, Josh. I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Obviously, being a Saturday, both family men, it's just, yeah, this is an honor. So thanks. So why don't you kind of start us off and highlight who is Dr. Barry?
Boy, I'm kind of like a kid that never really wanted to grow up, and so I'm 52. I love to ride my bike. I love to play hockey. I've got 3 boys. First one's going to university this year, and the next one's entering high school. The last one, who's actually playing his first football game right as we speak. These are growing boys, and I just kind of feel like I'm the oldest of the 4 brothers, to be honest. And being a chiropractor, I've learned through years and years of doing this that in order to act young, you have to be young. You have to have a body that allows you to do all these things. And there's so much in prevention, in recovery, that we have to be mindful of. So really, that's what I try to bring to the table when I meet people and take care of my own health.
Incredible. I like that. The 4 boys.
4 boys.
Yeah, I have 2. I don't know how you manage 3 because 2 is a lot, and I'm often wiped by just obviously their energy and their interests in 19 things at one time. So yeah, it's nice to hear. And again, yeah. Without being a fanboy, that's something that I highlight, or I really respect about yourself. And I've noticed since I started coming to your office, well, I guess a handful of months ago now, is just the fact that you're consistent. I really appreciate people that are consistent, and you're always great, and you're always active. And yeah, it's an addictive, I say, persona, which I really appreciate. That's definitely what's brought me back initially. And yeah, we're going to dive into chiropractic care here shortly, but yeah, it's awesome to have you here. So it's nice to, introduce you. That's great.
Yeah.
So can you kind of walk us through your chiropractic journey? At what point did you decide, this is the passion that I have in the profession I'm going to pursue? And then what does that kind of look like from school wise all the way till, I guess, today, if you don't mind?
Yeah, for sure. Boy, when I was a kid, I grew up, skinny little kid like everybody else, and I played a whole bunch of sports, and nothing at a high level, but I dabbled in everything. I tried every sport and event, and I was a runner, and became a triathlete. I always played hockey. I always skied. That was really my number one passion. And so I did all these things. I went, graduated high school here in Calgary. I went to University of Calgary, went into the kinesiology program, thinking I'd get into exercise physiology. And, a couple of years in, I had a friend of mine who said, you should meet my husband. He's a chiropractor. And I kind of said to her, I go, well, did what a lot of people say, which is, oh, I don't get headaches or neck pain or back pain, so why would I need to meet him? And she just said, he just kind of tells people how the body works and what can happen and how you take care of yourself. So I thought, yeah, sure, I'll go talk to him. At the same time, going through university, I was run down. Like I was doing triathlons, biking. It was in university. I was partying, but I was, doing everything. But boy, I would run a race, and for 2 days, my knees would just ache and throb, or my gut would be just not good. I always said if someone across the street would sneeze, I'd get sick. So just never really a poor recoverer. And, it's kind of embarrassing being an athlete and not, and feeling this way. So it was fortuitous meeting this guy, because he didn't talk to me about back pain, neck pain. He talked to me about posture and alignment and how the spine houses and protects, the nervous system, and those nerves control everything. So it just everything made a ton of sense to me. So 2 years into my degree, I asked him, I go, what does it look like to become a chiropractor? He said, well, you need your sciences, you need your pre-med stuff, and then it's its own school and you go away. And so I looked into it, and then I reached out to the school that he went to. There's one in Canada, and there's about a dozen in the US, and the one he went to is in the Bay Area, San Jose, California. Wow. So I looked into it, and boy, a couple months later, I was on the, finished changing the direction of my first degree. And I just basically finished the kines degree with a minor in sciences, and got through all that stuff, and then enrolled to in 1992 to go to Palmer College Chiropractic West, which was in San Jose. And that was the reason for me pursuing it. And along the way, got my family interested in it, and just the people that I talked to, mostly my family. Just a lot of things just resonated and made sense to them, and they got under care for various reasons. A sister with really bad asthma, my mom who was, just never slows down, and anyways, just it became just apparent that that's what I was going to do.
Nice. So that's an encouraging moment when you share, this is where I'm going, and then all of a sudden there's a mass amount of support too, instead of the opposite of, are you sure? Like, I don't know if you're made for that, but the opposite of, instant value. So that's exciting for sure. So how was the process then, being a Canadian going south? I guess doing school down there, is that 4 year or 2 year, or how did that? 4 years.
4 years, but you can go year round, so it makes it about 3.25 years if you just put the pedal to the metal and go. And that's what I did. And it was wonderful being down there, meeting, it's Americans, of course, but people from all over the world who were in my class, and just and you're together really 24/7 for 3.5 years, and diving deep into anatomy and learning. I mean, just in such detail, just every tissue, organ, nerve, bone, joint in the body at such a detailed level, and how everything works and how it all comes together. It was a remarkable time and experience. Living in California was in and of itself was just incredible. In fact, I said at the time, when I graduated, I was like, well, I'm never moving back to Calgary. So it took me on a different journey, but yeah, and I am back here now. But at the time it was remarkable, and the process from top to bottom was amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah, I'm sure you asked the question, or you answered the question, igloos and snow and
I mean, right, and you know, like to them, like we're Canadians, but we may as well be leprechauns or something, because to see one is, oh my gosh, it's a real life Canadian, and they love us. Oh my goodness, Americans absolutely love us. We can drink beer. They just think we can drink more beer than anyone on the planet, and we're so nice and friendly, which indeed is typically true. And yeah, we live in igloos. We ride horses, and we use slingshots and all that stuff. So much fun.
Yeah, I lived in Indianapolis when I was in between 14 to 15 for just shy of a year. And yeah, my nickname was Canada, and every day those type of questions, not so much the beer part, a little too young, but yeah, just the appreciation of, well, I appreciated their, like, not obviously every American is oblivious, but that's what I kept going home and telling my mom. I was like, man, some people are so oblivious. Like, no, I don't live in an igloo, but I thought it was funny. And yeah, playing sports down there too is completely different. Just they're, yeah, a little different than a small town where I grew up. So
unbelievable. Yeah, going to see college games in the US, watching USC, UCLA play football in the Rose Bowl, and 100,000 plus fans. It was just remarkable. And even, just the Friday night lights, right? The high school football, how crazy and intense that is. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, I agree. And that was my forte when I was in the South too, was playing football. And I wasn't any good. I was good up north. Like, I was good at basketball and football, but yeah, some of these kids at the time, like 6'5", 235 pounds. I'm like this, mind boggling. I still, I think about that sometimes, because my 11-year-old's just getting into sports, and I'm like, you're going to probably have a little bit of a rude awakening when you think your jump shot's perfect, and all of a sudden this other kid just scorches you, and you're like,
right.
That's awesome. Okay, so yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's different milk down there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So post-graduation, not giving away your story, but I'm fascinated by your journey. Is from there you went a little north to, it was Seattle, correct? And then you that's when you got the real world experience as a chiropractor?
It is, yeah. So first of all, I living in San Jose, you're a little bit concrete jungle. You're so close to so many wonderful places, right? You're so close to San Francisco. You're so close to Berkeley. You're so close to the ocean, and so many great places. But being that you're in school all the time, it was hard to get there a lot. So my fourth year, I made sure to finish my requisites, my requisite courses early enough that I could actually move up to San Francisco. Wow. So my fourth year, for my last year, I lived in San Francisco, which was one of my, one of the best years of my life. It was just extraordinary. The people, the culture, the places there, riding my bike across the Golden Gate Bridge back and forth 3 times a week. And it was like the first time, every time I rode it, it was just incredible. So I wanted to stay there. And in fact, I was looking to work either in San Francisco, or there was a girl I really liked at the time taking board exams, and she was going to San Diego. So I thought, well, why don't I look in San Diego? And then visiting my folks at a place up in just outside of Vancouver, BC, I went up and was looking at practices up there, and I had an offer. Well, a guy offering a position just north of Seattle. So while I was in Vancouver, I drove down, interviewed with this guy, and he said, "Can you start in 2 weeks?" I said, "No, I live in San Francisco. I was working a little bit in a clinic down there." And he said, "Okay, 3 weeks." And I said, "Okay." So I went home and packed everything up in a U-Haul and found a new roommate for the other roommates that I had. And boom, I was gone, and drove a U-Haul towing my car up to Marysville, Washington, where I practiced as an associate chiropractor, for 1.5 years, and then lived in Green Lake, Seattle during that time, which was, in my opinion, the best place in Seattle, and ended up building out my own practice in a little area called Green Lake, and yeah, had a practice there for 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my
So
wife at the time, I met my wife who had moved down from Calgary to be with me, and we had 3 boys, and raised our boys there in Seattle, born and raised, and yeah, they're definitely an integral part. And I was a part of the community there, and really, yeah, that's where I honestly thought I'd spend the rest of my time.
wow. Yeah, that's a lot. So something, again, I like admiring about people. I try and find things to admire about people, and something aside from the passion and chiropractor, which we're about to dive into, I think is you see what's possible really. I don't know if fast is the right word, but you're an efficient thinker, and I think that's pretty noticeable, because to make the decision, good conversations to get to California, good conversations to, obviously you're staying with parents for a little bit in Vancouver, to all of a sudden you're just outside of Seattle, and then a good conversation from working. Sorry, what was it? Your associate chiro is what it was called?
I was, yeah, at the beginning. Just worked for another chiropractor who was super busy, and gosh, it probably worked out to $3 an hour that I was getting paid. But the getting my hands on real people and real patients with real issues and problems, it really was formative for me. And it was a great experience, and really that's where my real passion built to really do something on my own, on my terms, according to my philosophy and whatnot.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. And yeah, a term I use often is a pivotal impact. So you've been able to, again, I like people that can own their life, and you've done so far. You portray a really strong image of that, and I think your boys are really fortunate too, because that's in their DNA. So good for you. That's super exciting.
Thank you.
So okay, no, I could talk about that forever, but I won't. So from, I guess, being hands-on to deciding to start your own, can you kind of walk us through what are some of the responsibilities as a chiropractor that you would oversee when you're actually working with people?
Sure. As primary healthcare providers, that means that you don't have to be referred to come to a chiropractor. So there's a big responsibility to know what you can help and deal with and what you can't, and that's all part of that the diagnostic process. So you don't have to be referred by another doctor to come and see us. People come off the street and say, I have this going on. And so first and foremost, you really need to know what, where I come into the picture. So if it's someone that has, some kind of a cardiovascular or pulmonary or digestive issue, things that are plain and simply not something that chiropractors do, we have to be able to not only say, well, this isn't something I can, maybe primarily help with, we have to steer them into that direction. So, just kind of knowing that right off the bat. But, as a provider, figuring out what is going on and why is this person here? So it's interesting. In school, it's all about, diagnosing a condition. And it is like that in all healthcare schools, I think. But what I learned really quickly in real life is that people, we'll call them patients, but people or practice members or patients, they aren't pages of a textbook. So when you're in school, it's these 4 diagnostic criteria lead us to this diagnosis. But then someone comes in and maybe they've got 2, or maybe they don't have any, but it's really not anything else. It is that, right? So you really have to kind of almost take that stuff out and just look at this person in the eye and hear their story, right? And say, well, yes, what do you feel? What are your signs? What are your symptoms? But really, what do you think is going on? Or what has led to this? And, the obvious ones are someone climbs a tree, they fall out of a tree, and they heard something go snap or pop. Well, we kind of pretty much know that the falling out of the tree was what caused the problem, and the bruise, the bump, the break, or whatever is the problem, and now we know what to fix. That's 1 out of 50 or 1 out of 100, right? The rest are, you and I woke up one day and now this is happening, this hurts. So we have to rewind the clock and figure out, well, what has led you to this here, to coming in here today, and why today?
Right.
Perhaps this has been going on for 20 years. Why did you pick today to come in? So it's really, it's really being a good listener and drawing on experience and just kind of hearing what that person has to say about their own journey with their health. So that really is as a provider, as a chiropractor, that's what I'm trying to figure out with people.
That's incredible. Yeah, and you're right. I could see there not being as many tree falls as every other example in the world. Why someone's sore. Like when I first started coming, I had extreme like migraines to the point where I'd get like a lightning bolt in my eye. And you've been very gracious and I'd say patient, because I don't generally like to complain. And I think being in the environment where you're actually getting asked genuinely, hey, what's wrong? What hurts? Like, how does this feel? How does it? And again, you do a really good job at that, which I really appreciate. And that's a selling feature for you as a chiropractor for sure. But also, I'd say the environment in the clinic was really attentive listening. And I don't find that's very, you can go to a doctor's office and you don't get that, in my humble opinion. But when I came there for the first time, because we moved from Airdrie to Calgary, and my wife was like, yeah, you should probably go check this place out. I was like, okay. So you go in and you're like, everyone's really nice. And it's like everyone's listening to how am I actually doing. And I thought that was really unique. So yeah, I like the fact that you focus really well on listening. And then obviously on the chiropractic care, mine, it's hard to say if it was from sports or sports injuries. I do sit a lot now, which I think is a contributing factor. But again, over the last couple of months, my headaches I get them the odd time and it's not nearly as painful. They were like, I almost felt paralyzed at times because I had to stop moving to make sure I didn't get this like weird lightning bolt. And I don't experience that anymore. So again, thank you very much, because that was suffocating just in my day-to-day life. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. And again, listening is key. And I think that's something we can all improve on. But yeah, I can definitely speak on the fact that that's a skill set for sure of your team too, not even just yourself, but as your team. That's something from my experience, which I greatly appreciate. So as I kind of mentioned, sitting, I know a lot of people, obviously I'm in the transportation space, and a lot of people do sit. So if you're a professional driver, you're sitting for long hours of time, but also operational staff. A lot of people now are, they're centered around computers. I have 4 monitors around me right now, just because that's what I need when I'm doing my day-to-day. So what, in your experience, I guess, can you highlight the impacts of sitting? Like, is the term sitting is the new smoking, is there's some truth to that? But yeah, I guess kind of to highlight that, but also what kind of injuries have you experienced with when we're talking about people that are in an office setting or in a truck setting?
Yeah, well, and right off the bat, I don't like that term, sitting is the new smoking, because, really, smoking is a choice, and sitting isn't. And what I don't want is for people to, so you sit for a living, and then all of a sudden this health authority tells you, oh, sitting's horrible for you, and you hear that and understand it, and then say, oh, but I have 50 more years of this job. So really they just leave feeling bad about that. So I refuse to make people feel bad for what they have to do for work or for living or even for that choice. So, but the reality is, not that we're not meant to sit, we're just not meant to sit for extended periods of time. So there's so many factors that can come in. Some I can help with, some other people can help with, but some of it comes down to quality of the chair you're sitting in. So I will tell people, if you sit for a living, if you're on your feet for a living, or say we spend a third of our lives in bed, or we should, right? 8 hours out of 24, we should spend, then spend and invest your money in comfort and support And like, don't cheap out on a mattress. You're going to sleep a third of your entire life. Get a great quality mattress that supports you, that's comfortable. And that includes the sheets, that includes the pillows and the blankets and everything, right? So, with shoes, don't just buy, off the rack shoes that are, that don't offer those things. I mean, you want there to be style, whatnot. But we can help with orthotics, things like that, that can make them more comfortable or more custom to you. But then sitting, get a chair that fits you. Don't go to don't you fit the chair, but find the chair that fits you, and find things that create a lumbar support or that create a headrest if you're in that position. Things that are like, that's just really outside stuff, right? Invest in the chair that's going to work best for you and allow you to be the best at what you do. So, and then in terms of, what happens, if we think about a person standing up, we're made of joints. We're a whole human pile of joints. Those joints are meant to move. And part of what the fluid integrity of the joint allows is for shock absorption. So when we're standing, we have the support of our foot bones, our ankles, our knees, our hips, and our pelvis, and then our spine. When we sit, we eliminate everything from that lower spine down. So there is no longer that cushioned support of the pelvis, hips, knees, ankles, and foot bones. So we're left at, the mercy of our chairs. And our spine, that compression of gravity, our posture, and everything that just compresses us as we sit. So, there's different things that we talk about. Yes, quality of a chair is number one, but creating an interval of getting up from sitting. Desks. I'm at a desk right now. It's Linda's desk. Don't tell her I'm sitting here. But it's a sit stand desk. So when she's tired of sitting, she raises the whole thing up and she stands. Setting a timer for 20 minutes, setting it 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it is, whatever suits you and your job and whatnot, that you can get up, move around, and not sit. And now, as I understand, the trucking industry, there's no sit stand steering wheels, right? You're sitting and driving. And when you're a long haul trucker and you need to get from point A to point B, time is money, and unfortunately that burden falls to you drivers, and so, but there are still things that you need to incorporate, and we can dive into any one of these. I'm just kind of talking about the big net, kind of casting a big net over everything that I see, talking about sitting and driving and surfaces and whatnot. The one thing I do know about so sitting is hard on the spine, but what's even worse is the sitting and compression that happens with the lower spine in particular with drivers. So, I see a lot of bus drivers and the quality of those seats are not good. I think trucks are a whole lot better. But yeah, sitting and compression are kind of a tough combo.
Yeah, and the quality of seat, something I have always questioned too, because I found, because most of them are air ride seats now with just newer equipment, and they put all the bells and whistles into them aside from like maybe not a neck massager itself. And I always found my left leg, obviously your right leg is for like your accelerator and your brake. And I always found my left leg, my hip and my knee would throb because that was my balance. And like, sure, you're holding on to the steering wheel, or sure, you're shifting gears and you can put your arm on like your door. But I always felt that my left leg was my stability because of the air ride, that by not even the end of the day, sometimes halfway through the day, it was like a constant throb on the outside of my knee and my hip. And that's so in transportation, you have to do cargo securement checks. And for me, that was always my stretch break too, because I was like, man, this leg is just, that was one of the reasons why I stopped wanting to be a professional driver too, is I'm like, man, I'm way too young to feel this old and this sore. And like I rode, like half of my career was on the road. Some of it was like more so job sites and oil sites. And when you're on some of these oil sites, There's no asphalt. It's just
Right.
waterlogged dirt where you're just like this the whole time and trying to stabilize yourself. And yeah, they're just up against a lot. And
Yeah.
I appreciate some of what you mentioned too, because I think a lot of times people are so busy that they forget, hey, you know what? I need to stand. I need to go get a glass of water, just do a quick 5-minute walk, whatever.
Yeah.
And anytime someone outside of myself can speak that into people, I think it's important because it's true. And yeah, you were mentioning the other day too, and I was at your office, how you were able to kind of pinpoint someone had some sore heels, but it was actually something to do with their lower back. And I think, again, in our industry, with the amount of sitting people have to do, because it's their job, I have to get from point A to point B in a certain amount of time, to have so much paperwork to do. You don't want to experience those types of pains, whatever the time it takes to create that. And taking your advice, which I like the fish net or the net theory, because there's so many opportunities to be sore in transportation that a lot of people just don't think about. But I think, yeah, you highlighted some good points for sure.
Well, yeah, and right. So, I think a couple of things. There's a million different things we could do, or maybe 100, but it could be overwhelming. So, for me, if I'm going to make a change, it has to be simple. It has to be quick and easy. And if you're, yeah, and it has to be flexible, right? So, like, I'm not going to say everybody has to stand up every 20 minutes. So if a trucker has to stop every 20 minutes and pull off to the side of the road and get out and do some exercise that they have to change into their Lululemon gear to be able to do, no one's going to do it, right? So the things that we take the time to do, we have to be able to do it in a second, in a heartbeat, with the resources we have. You're not carrying a squat rack in behind you in the truck. You're just using your body weight, and you're going to do something to jog what it is that you've been doing. So you're sitting, you're compressing for 20, 30, 2 hours, whatever it is. And if you only have 2 minutes, or if you have 20 minutes, you can only spend 2 of those, then we have to do something different. And anything will work. Being upright is not sitting. So there you are, right? So right away, you've created a different posture. So you have to look at that and say, that helps. Oh, but I didn't run a 5K. No, you don't have to run a 5K. You just have to do something that's not aggravating what you've been doing. So if sitting is aggravating it, let's just not sit. Okay, boom, it's as simple as it gets. Now, if we can add in something where we do some jumping jacks or leg swings or some air squats or something that can just take you to another level, wonderful. But if not, consider it a win, because you spend 2 minutes not doing something that's aggravating you.
That's good advice, because again, I think a lot of times people think it has to be to the extreme, and it's not necessarily the case. And yeah, nothing worse than a guilty conscience because you didn't do this, because you only had time to do this. And yeah, no, that's really applicable advice. I appreciate that, because again, I'm a victim of that too. Oh, I didn't do this today. Nobody did a little bit today. Okay, thanks. Like we're not robots, and I think that's really important. So no, that's really good advice. I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah.
So obviously, you're a chiropractor, and obviously, I greatly appreciate. I like the consistency. I like coming in every week. I like the conversations. Obviously, I love the treatment, and I love the after. I guess the impact of the treatment is basically instant. But from your experience working with, I don't know if it's thousands of people or high hundreds of people, what would be some of the top reasons, if you've never been to chiropractor before, that you feel that people should go to chiro for?
My practice name in Seattle was Lifestyle Chiropractic, and it just really resonated with me because I felt like our lifestyle our lifestyle dictates our health. So when we work for 10 hours a day and we're hunched over a computer, it is what we have to do, but it's taking away the posture element is affecting some of the other things that I think could be more beneficial. But we have to weigh those things, right? So the lifestyle part has to come. We just always have to be aware of what it is we're doing through our bodies. Like the autopilot, it can be really, really tough. So that when we stand and slouch, that's autopilot. So being aware that let's be aware that maybe what I'm doing isn't the best for me, so create a change. Now, I just serve that as a backdrop because I feel like, again, the fall out of the tree isn't the primary reason that people come here. It's the, and I won't say age either, because that's, to me, that's not accurate. It's time, but it's not specifically our age. But what happens is we just start feeling not great. We lose a bit of flexibility. Maybe we have a tweak or a glitch, or our posture has led to something, but it's because we've had that posture for 20 years. So the main reasons people come in, I would say, are upper back and neck tension. And it's interesting, since COVID happened, people moved from their workspace to a home workspace, from a desk and a PC to home and a laptop on the couch or a bar stool and hunched over. That was awesome for the first 3 months, but then it was, I got this, like, this is tweak, and now I can't do this, and these things that maybe in and of themselves aren't like the main fire, but they all add up and have led to a huge impact on a person's lifestyle. So now they're not sleeping as well. Now, because of that, they don't have as much energy the next day. Whereas they used to want to exercise, now the hip or the low back aches and they don't want to go for that run. So they're putting on a bit of weight and they're being more complacent, right? These little things that just creep up, and they come here and say, yeah, I don't really know, but this is aching and this is bugging me, and I don't know when it started, but so it's this kind of almost an unknown, but it is when they come to see me, it is manifesting as neck pain, upper back pain and tension. Headaches are very, very common, and low back. Low back aches and pains. My buddy that was in this morning, and play hockey with them every Tuesday, and I poke fun at him because he has a spine of an 80-year-old, but he's as fit as anything. But he understands now the value, but it's trying to instill this in people on a corrective, but as a preventative measure as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's the mindset, and maybe a little bit of it's the ego, where if you can't pinpoint this happened which caused this pain or this discomfort, maybe it's more of a self-reflection. And I think a lot of people are too much on autopilot, too busy, that they don't reflect. I have conversations about that as often as I can, because I like reflecting and I like analyzing, how did I perform here? How am I feeling here? And I definitely fell victim to that, where I was going to the gym. I wouldn't say I was the best shape of my life. That was when I was in my early 20s. But for a new dad, I was in good shape. And then when the pandemic happened, that changed. Part of it was the gym. Part of it, like you mentioned, was just, okay, I'm not in my routine going to the office. I'm at home, and it's a lot easier to eat 2 bagels instead of 1 because they're right there. And I fell, again, it's self-inflicted, and I've started to redirect my course again. But I'm like, I don't want to carry around that weight, and I don't want the headaches, and I don't want this discomfort in my mattress. But I think people need to realize, just take a time out, like take 10 minutes and ask yourself, how am I feeling? And when did I start not feeling how I desire to feel? And so I was interested. So I have a friend that is in the sleep apnea space, and super, super nice guy. His name's Troy. And he was saying the number one in conversation way that he can help someone identify if they have some sign of like a sleep dysfunction is ask them what they do when they first get off work. And he's like, this doesn't work for everyone, but most of the time when someone's there, they think they have a problem. Similar, someone has some form of ache or pain, they're at the chiropractor's office. And he's just like, so what do you do when you leave the office? And some people say, well, I go home, I prep dinner, da 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 da. Okay, he knows it's not a lifestyle decision necessarily, more so it could be something else. But he's like, more often than not, he's like, I hear people say, well, I used to go home and prep food, but now I stop off at McDonald's or I go grab that pizza because I've just been so tired. And for him, he's just like, okay, so that's a progressive thing. How many times have you done that in the last, say, 6 months? Well, I guess it's been 3 times a week instead of before it was once a month. But I think, yeah, when people stop and say, hey, how am I doing? How's Josh doing today? How Dr. Barry doing today? Then you can actually identify these things before it gets to a point where you just, yeah, you feel like a zombie and you're super grumpy because you don't know why you're in pain, but you're in pain. And yeah, again, that's the value that you offer for sure. And I like when you mentioned it was the lifestyle. I like that name too. I think that's really powerful. So that's really cool.
Well, it held me to a standard too, right? So if I'm preaching health and wellness, and especially proactive, because there's lots of chiropractors, amazing chiropractors that say, you know what, when you're in pain, come and see me and I'll get you out of pain. And they do a remarkable job. For me, it was, well, I like to think I'm good at getting people out of pain, but I really want the benefit to be keep you out of pain so it doesn't keep happening over and over again. It's like, it's like saying you're 40 pounds overweight. Well, come to my gym and we'll get you okay, we lost all that weight. Okay, out you go. See you later. When you gain that weight, come on back and we'll get you back into shape again, right? So that's that same line of thinking. And so lifestyle it's a lifestyle. So, and then I thought about, well, set yourself up for success, not for failure. So like having meals prepped, or like having something towards the end of the day to get you through that end of the day hunger in as healthy way as you can. Or maybe don't sweat that, but enough that you're not going to hit the drive-through on the way home. But then maybe it's those food services that send you the kits and you just cook them up and whatnot. Like that kind of takes away some of the work and keeps the ideas fresh, right? So set yourself up for success, and because you're right, complacency sneaks up on us, and we don't maybe we do if we feel that guilty conscience, but when you just hit the drive-through, the reason you're there is because the convenience outweighs the subconscious knowledge that we have, like that it's not as good for us as it is to go home and cook a fresh salmon and some steamed vegetables. So having that reflection and being able to check in and go, oh, holy crap, I need to wake up here. Or, it's been 3 days this week I've done this. And again, if you're going to set yourself up for success, maybe the next week, go 2 days. Don't just say I'm never going to go again. That's really usually we just hang on, and then we fall off the cliff. So yeah, I think that lifestyle part of it it's an awareness piece that everything has to be congruent, and I needed it for me. So it's funny when I talk and give talks and whatnot, I'll pump my own tires big time and say how much of a health and wellness expert I am, which I am. I have some post-certification thing on it, right? I'm a nutrition expert. I know everything there is to know about nutrition and health and wellness and everything. And I pause and let everybody kind of think of, how I just pumped my own ego. But then I follow it up and say, but here's the deal. If someone sticks a Costco-sized box of Oreo cookies in front of me, who knows everything, I'm going to mow down a whole sleeve of those Oreos before I come up for air.
Yes.
It's human nature. I'm going to do it. And everyone's going to do it. So what do? I don't buy Costco-sized Oreos, right? I don't do these. I don't have it in the house. If I do, I'll drink 4 Cokes in a row and eat a sleeve of Oreo cookies. Yes. And then I'll feel shame. But I'll do it, right? So create the environment that you want, and you won't eat it if it's not there. It's kind of my point.
Yes. Yeah, a handful of years ago, I don't know if I told you this or not, but I became a certified life coach. It was fun. And one of the biggest things that I've always thought, and you highlighted on it too, was when you're talking about the gym analogy, is a lot of times people will, and I'm not an expert when it comes to like going to a, oh shucks, I forgot the name, not a consultant, a counselor. So again, I'm not an expert. We're talking counselors and medical help, nothing like that. But the analogy that they often gave was similar to the gym one, is people will go to get to zero. And then once you're at zero, okay, great. And then you kind of backtrack, life happens, all that stuff. And the power of coaching, and the same thing with power of a true trainer at the gym or going to chiro, is to ensure that you're not at zero. It's always be in the plus, because life happens, things happen. And how do we respond when those things happen? It's a lot, not easier as in simple, but I think you have the energy of the mental strength, you have the physical strength to endure more when you're rocking at like a plus 50 than you are if your baseline zero about to fall off. And yeah, I like that analogy with the gym too, because it resonates really well with me, because I try my hardest stuff with professional drivers. From a physical standpoint, I wouldn't say that's my forte, but it's more so the emotional, mental standpoint. And a lot of times they're just identified as a meat in the seat, or just to shut up, do your job. It's like, no. They're some of the greatest people in our industry and in our society, in my opinion. And yeah, I like the fact that we have a common belief in that headspace, because when you can have a professional driver that's at a plus 50, they're safer, they're better at their job, they're more fulfilled in their career. And there's a lot of pros in that direction that I think our industry, again, just speaking on transportation, lacks. And that's one of my heart's cry for sure, is creating more of an awareness and almost a movement in that space, where like, let's be proud of who we are as people and the impact that we have, sure, in our careers, but more so in our day-to-day lives with our families. And yeah, again, I get excited when I connect with people that have a similar mindset. So I think that's pretty neat. So well done. I appreciate that.
Well, 100%. And gosh, I mean, speaking of drivers, I think it's like any profession, right? And you call them professional drivers, that's what they are, right? They are, that whole 10,000 hours. You become an expert in what you do when you spend enough time doing it, and you are now a professional. You are the standard for that. I think everybody on the planet should watch a driver of one of these big rig trucks back into what, Safeway or Save On or whatever, into those tight spaces that they have to back into. And I consider myself a pretty good driver, but sometimes I need, three times to parallel park my Jeep against the curb. And they're doing this, they're backing into one of those little, sloping down driveways into the loading or unloading dock in three turns or less, right? And all the while, 15 cars trying to get in and around them and flipping them off and doing all this stuff around it. And so I do my best, to be honest, to give them a thumbs up, or if I see it, I mean, my goodness, I've wanted to get out and clap before, because there is a skill and an art to it. And everybody's profession has a skill and an art. And it's interesting, as a chiropractor, the chiropractic stuff, that's easy. But that's what you learn in school. That's what you kind of figure out along the way. But what you don't learn, you don't learn it there. You create it is communication with people, how to listen, how to appreciate. And, I've learned so much in how I listen and communicate through people who are life coaches and whatnot, because that's so much. And one of the big ones I will say, kind of tying into something earlier, when I ask people, okay, what's your goal in coming here? It's one of the first questions I ask on day one. And, the answer is pretty much always, well, I want to get out of pain. So, at the risk of sounding glib, Josh, if it's just about getting out of pain, I can save you a lot of time and a lot of money and send you down to, to Shoppers Drug Mart. You get some over the strength meds and you'll be out of pain and on cloud nine in 20 minutes or less, right? Yes. So it's not the pain that they want to get out of. It's what is that pain and discomfort preventing you from doing or enjoying? And it's amazing how many times I see people cloud up or tear up, because that's their moment. And that's why they picked today, not 2 years, 10 years, yes, a week ago, to come in. I'm fed up now. And you know, and if you know, if I'm again touching on drivers, I call them, like many of us, occupational athletes, meaning you use your body for a living. And when we use our body for a living, our bodies need to be in tip-top shape. And if you're driving for umpteen hours and your low back is screaming, or you've got sciatic pain shooting down your leg, or you've got tingling in your heel, like you mentioned, then you are not effective at your job. You're not representing the best you that you can be in a job that requires your attention and your skill. So you know, I find out, like, there are athletes, or Calgary Flames, for example, you know, but they make their millions of dollars a year because hopefully their career will last till they're 30, and then that money they've earned will last them for the rest. You and I don't have that luxury. We're going to work till we're 60 and beyond. So we need to make sure that as occupational athletes, we take care of our bodies throughout that time. It's even more important that we take care of ourselves as the true athletes that are done at 30 do. So
I've never heard that term before, but I'm going to start using that as occupational athlete. I like that. And yeah,
anything I say, you can steal and use, because I've stolen and used it from everybody else.
I appreciate that. And again, I like being a sponge mind, where when you're speaking with people of quality, and again, I like people that have been where I'm trying to get to, and you're a great example of that, which I really respect and appreciate. And I like that, occupational athlete. I'm going to use that. And yeah, I'm very mindful of using the term professional driver, because I can't say everyone is a professional driver. There are some drivers out there that I wish weren't drivers. Part of it is a lack of care more than a lack of knowledge. But yeah, there are a lot of thousands upon thousands of professionals in our industry that, yeah, if it's the safe ways to, you crossed what bridge, you did what and what, like, it's just astronomical what is possible. But again, it's a 10,000 hour rule where, okay, you had to suck at first, but then, yeah, it's nice knowing I'm not the only one that appreciates someone's ability to maneuver through traffic, through rude gestures, and then be like, yeah, I did that safely, but I did that 15 times earlier today too, so don't worry. Like, it's just, yeah, it is a true skill set for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah.
The one of my favorite questions, and you spoke on it a few times, so I don't want to guess the answer, so I'll allow you to share the answer. But as you continue to have an impact on so many people's lives, mine included, which I'm super grateful for, if you do, which I think you might, what would you think your legacy, or what would you like your legacy to be today, as well as for the rest of, if you want to call it your career, the rest of the time being a professional chiropractor, but what would, you'd like your legacy to continue to be?
Gosh, you know what, that's a great question. And I love hearing other people give theirs. And I feel like a lot of times there's an aha moment that people have that just says, that's my legacy. But you know, mine has been formative over years, and I think it's really that Barry was true to his word, that he lived by the wellness and lifestyle principles that he preaches or empowers other people to do. I don't want to preach it. I want to instill it in people. And I think the best way that I can and have done it so far is to live by that example, is to be the example that I'm showing people. So, you know, and really, as I'm in my early 50s, I'm recognizing how important the little things are, like the warm up before I go and play a sport, or the stretching after. And it's actually really, I've said it for years and years, but I didn't always do it. I certainly didn't in my 20s. But yeah, my legacy, I'd like it to be that I lived by the principles that I'm empowering others to. That kind of creates congruency for me, and it eliminates the distractions, and it makes my choices simple. You know, should I don't know, go on a bender tonight? That's just really, it's counter to the principles that I'm trying to teach other people. Now, can I go have fun? Absolutely. And I'm not, and let me just say, without judgment, right? So I want to lead by example without judgment, ever, 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 ever. But I think that's it. That's it for me. I want my boys to see, that I'm in my 50s, and yeah, they ask me about the olden days, the 80s, my favorite decade, but those are the olden days now, right? So, but I play sports with them, and I can, we watch the same shows, we watch some of the same music, but that's getting further and further apart. But right, I want to live live these lifestyle principles that I try to teach others.
Powerful. Yeah, I think that's an exceptional legacy, and you've said a lot of things that makes me think of other leaders that I appreciate. And there's a guy named Donald Miller. I know him as Business Made Simple, but he's got a couple of marketing things. He's a genius in his space. And I was listening to one of his videos yesterday morning that said, well, he got the guidance from someone else that said, stop allowing yourself to get confused. And when you know what you need to do, just do it. Instead of asking the question, is this really what I need to do? It's, no, you know what you need to do, just go do it. And when you actually have, I call pillars, the foundation, the principles, yes, this is what I need to do. There's no confusion. This is what I need to do. And then, holding yourself accountable and discipline obviously is, like, we could talk about that for probably another 45 minutes, which would be sweet. But I think you're doing a really good job at that. And again, like I mentioned at the beginning, your sons are very fortunate, because I'm a younger dad, and I try and be mindful. I'm not perfect. I have a temper sometimes when my oldest does things that I'm sure I did when I was younger, but I forgot. And I'm just like, okay, it's not about being perfect. It's just, can I get better every day? And intentional living and having this foundational pieces that he knows that's that. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's my dad. That's what he's known for. That's what he'll do when he says he'll do it. And I think as you spoke on your legacy, even throughout this conversation, I heard a lot of things that would be your principles for sure. And it's just nice to hear it summarized, because some people don't think about it. They just live a good quality life. But it's nice to know that you're living very intentional for that, and that your audience appreciates it too. I think it's super powerful.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah.
Absolutely. So just with respect to time, it is a Saturday, and this conversation's been awesome. So as we kind of come to a close, I always like to ask if there's any final thoughts that you'd like to say, as well as if someone had any questions maybe they're in the United States, but they have a question on chiropractic care, or if they're in Calgary, I highly recommend they come visit you. How do people get in contact with you for that?
Well, here at the clinic at Chaparral Family Chiropractic, we're in the southeast corner of Calgary, and certainly reaching out to me via email on that. dr.barry@familywellnesscenter.com is my email, and that's and I'm fortunate to belong to a great network of amazing chiropractors here locally, and of course my time in Seattle. I know a ton of great chiropractors. So questions on wherever you are, I'm happy to steer you to someone who's convenient, and I'm happy to answer questions and whatnot. Here in Calgary, in Chaparral, we're happy to see if we can help anybody here, of course. In terms of getting a hold of me or reaching out, or through you, Josh, I welcome it for sure. I love talking about this. I really do want to reiterate the without judgment part. I come across enough people that I talk about principles and health and wellness, and kind of people then feel guilty and I should have done this, I should have done that, and you can't turn back the clock. But we're living organisms, right? So our cells are regenerating. We can change. We can create a pivot point and change like that, and that's a beautiful thing. You're right. We could talk another 45 minutes. We're going to need to talk again, because there's so many great mentors that I've learned from in my 25 years now of being a chiropractor, and it weaves into what I do, and it really boils down to we're in control over our own health. We have more say in how healthy we are and how healthy we can be than than we're ever led to believe. And that shift, that moment can happen right away. So, I say without judgment, because it's not up to me, it's up to you. And sometimes you just need to hear it at the right time, kind of like I did when I was, a couple of years into university, not really knowing where I was going to go, and applied it first and then followed it second.
I like that, without judgment. Yeah, and I think that can remove all barriers when you just feel, this is who I am. Take me as I am, Dr. Barry.
Yeah, totally,
I like that. Yeah. And I'll include I can include the websites. Obviously there's the contact page there directly. And then, if you're comfortable, I'll add the email address just in the show notes as well, because I do find I like being a funnel. But I do know that a lot of people just like going right to the source, which is totally cool too. So just want to make sure that opportunity is there.
Mm-hmm.
So, awesome.
Yeah, and and quite honestly, I welcome people going through you. I will say certain things about how I can help and whatnot, but sometimes hearing it from someone who's had the experience, it gives a more true representation of what it might mean to them. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Happy to help in any way I can.
Awesome. Okay, no, I really appreciate that. And just, I like this conversation. Again, you're very consistent in making me feel uplifted. So it's not physical today, it's more of an emotional upliftment. But I appreciate the honesty, and I really appreciate that you consistently show up, and you've had a really large impact in my life. And I just, for anyone listening, I could tell that there's enough information, right, even in this 48-ish minute conversation, where people are going to be like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay, I can do that. And it's applicable advice, and it's non-judgmental, which I really respect from just coming from you. So again, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. This was awesome.
Happy to do it, Josh.
Awesome.
Again, happy to do it. And it's been fun.
Great. Okay, well, thanks. Well, have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye. Well, that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much, Dr. Barry, for joining myself for a conversation that I believe is offering a lot of value to the professionals that definitely are taking the time to listen. One thing that I really appreciate was just your humble advice, your honest advice. And I love the fact that you approach it with a non-judgmental point of view. And I just, thank you so much for just everything that you've done in my life as a chiropractor, but also as a friend and as someone I consider as a mentor. And again, thank you so much for joining. To all of our dedicated listeners, thank you so much for just your continued support as we continue to navigate by introducing different leaders to our industry that are really creating a change in people's lives. It really means a lot. And if you have not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel or to the podcast itself, I ask that you do so, because the greater the following, the greater the impact, as well as we've recently launched the Truck Focus newsletter, which is, again, all about introducing industry leaders to the industry. It's just in a written format. So it's a different approach just to really have an impact, give exact specific advice that maybe you're not able to hear in a podcast a podcast conversation or in a YouTube video. So it's another way that you can definitely just receive impact, but also to contribute. So if there's an opportunity that you could also share the newsletter, greatly appreciate it. So again, thank you so much, Dr. Barry. Really appreciate your time, and just, let's continue to create a pivotal impact. So have a wonderful day, everyone.